States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
One nation under God, indivisible, justice for all. Okay, I want to thank everyone for their patience, and I want to thank any of the listeners in residents of the city or anyone else that might be listening. Thank you for your interest, and stay warm and safe out there. We'll start the agenda off with the roll call.
Here, I can barely hear you.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you, but I did not hear the clerk.
Okay.
Same for Frank. I can hear you, Jim, but I can't hear Megan.
No,
I think she's got a mic problem. Okay, first of all, we'll go with
Butler?
That's better, yes.
Here. Jordan?
here.
Overy?
Here.
Sabatino?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
All members are present.
Second. Okay, we have all 7 council members present. Again, thank everyone for their patience. And modern technology, I like pencil and paper. Okay, first item on the agenda is the minutes. Is there anyone who has not received an updated copy of the minutes? Okay, is there anyone who has any questions on the minutes as they were updated? Okay, since I hear nothing, we will go to a roll call vote to approve the minutes. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the February 1st meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 1st.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we now will take a roll call vote.
Jordan?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Overy?
Yes.
Bookmeyer?
Yes.
Butler? Yes. Behl?
Yes.
Sabatino?
Yes.
All members are in favor.
Okay, minutes have been approved by a unanimous decision. 7-0 vote. Okay, the first thing on the agenda under new business is there were some questions regarding the traveling clerk and what her duties were and what exactly she did while she was here. So she is going to be here this evening to give council a rundown on just what she did, and if anyone has any questions, we will go through an opportunity for everyone to ask any questions. So at this time, Melody Smith, the traveling clerk, are you back on the line with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, would you kind of fill council in on just exactly what your duties were and what these changes were made and how the assistance was given to the city?
Okay. Well, first I would like to say that it's really difficult for anyone to ask for assistance, but in this case, it was great that she did and got assistance quickly so that things didn't get out of hand. I've seen it where it got so far out of hand that you couldn't bring it back in. But since Annette was on top of it and said, I need some help, because of lots of reasons. COVID is probably one of the biggest problems because of all the time that it took to do COVID, and her training a new staff member really made it difficult to get the day-to-day done, COVID done, and get all the bank recs done. So I was called in to work on bank recs. That was the first thing she asked me to do. And I came down and worked on the municipal utility accounts. I worked on the rec center accounts, and I worked on the general bank accounts. And currently, all your bank accounts are done and over with as December 31st, are reconciled and ready to go. Not only do I reconcile, but I also make sure that they're prepared and ready for the auditors, which will save you time and money on the audit itself, because they can rely on a third party doing some of the work. Therefore, it'll save you money in the long run. So even though you paid me to get it done, I'm helping you get it ready for the next level. So that should save you money as well. While I was there, I noticed that you didn't have a comprehensive budget for as big as you guys are. You didn't have a detailed comprehensive budget. And I got a lot of feedback that departments really weren't involved in the budgeting process per se. So Jeremy being new, Annette being new to the village, we had some department heads that would like to have some input. I built a comprehensive budget, and with all their help, and I do mean everyone's help, all the department heads and everyone, I believe we put a package in front of you that's going to give you way more detail than you've seen in the past, and hopefully will make this easier to do your budgeting so that you don't miss things, stuff like that. I also put together a detailed debt schedule showing all the debt that you guys currently have out there, what funds it's paid out of, whether that fund makes enough money to pay that debt. And we did see some things that we didn't know we had a problem with. So there are some funds that are a little short that needed to have some transfers made, and some of those are proposed in the permanent budget. But the final piece on the budget is that front sheet that I give you that shows the revenue versus the appropriation versus the cash balance that's out there. It kind of opens your eyes and you say, whoa, I didn't realize that, or I didn't see that. And that took a lot to get that together, but with all the cooperation I was able to get, we put it together pretty quickly. Also, just working with your staff has been fantastic. You are the most cooperative group of managers I've ever worked with. Most of the time there's disagreements, or people don't want to get out of their silo. They don't want you in their business and that kind of thing. But I never encountered that at all. Everyone on the staff, and I mean everyone, was cooperative. From the police department, the water department, the utilities, everybody came together to build this budget. Jeremy learned a lot. I can tell you that one of the things that my goal was to get Jeremy caught up on these budgets, and because he's, the service director, he needs to know a lot of this information, and he helped me dissect some of the line items. And what we discovered in this dissection is that you have a lot of stuff crammed in just a few line items that really doesn't give a good picture of what you're spending your money on. We dissected, just one example is supplies and materials out of the general fund. You name it, it was in there. I had insurance in there. I had payments to other people in there. I had contracts in there. There were so many things buried in that line item that it didn't represent anything that it was said that it does. So what we did is, in this budget that you have in front of you, was take those line items, put them where they really belong, so that you can have a clear picture and make decisions on what's really going on inside those books. And I think that you will see that when you see the information that Jeremy and Annette and everybody is presenting to you, the back sheets that bring up those numbers in the resolution, how much work we did to get you better information so that you can make better decisions. So, and that's just really what we've been doing. I help them with anything they ask me to help them with. And that's kind of what I do as a traveling clerk. I come in, you tell me what you need, I help you, I train you, I show you whatever you need. And then when we're done, I leave. So is there any questions?
Okay, first of all, Melanie, before we get into the questions, could you just, for the benefit of council, so that they have a little bit of an understanding, could you give the council a little bit on your background
Sure,
finance
sure.
and accounting?
Yes, I hate to say it, but I'm old and I've been around a long time. I have worked 43 years under the state system. I was a state auditor for 20 years. I was a director of accounting at a college for 5 years. I worked at a DD board, Developmental Disabilities Board, as a director of accounting for 8 years. I retired at that point. I worked at a mental health board for 9 years as a director of accounting. I also help a village. I help a township, and I've been at Buckeye Lake helping them for the last year. And I've been everywhere. I've been on both sides of the audit, as well as doing the audit, as well as getting audited. So I understand both sides and what it takes to get ready for an audit. And I've also taught at all three colleges. So I taught at Muskingum, OU, and Zane State, and I taught accounting and business courses for all three.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. It sounds to me I'm far from a financial person by any stretch of the imagination, but it sounds like a very impressive background to me. Before we get into questions also, I know several people had asked for an actual hard copy of the proposed budget that we'll be looking at in the legislation, and some people just looked at it online. So I don't know if anybody, make sure everyone's had an opportunity to look through that budget and see if there's any questions, and we'll go one by one through the council members to see if they have any questions that she could answer possibly on that budget. We'll start off with Linda Jordan. Linda, do you have any questions for Melanie?
Hello.
Hey, Linda, do you have any questions for Melanie?
Oh, I'm sorry. I cut myself off for a second. How long have you been here, Melanie?
I believe I'm not there every day. I come and go. I've probably been there once or twice a week for, I'm not even sure what the first day I came. That's a good question. I'm probably checking invoice here. I think I came in December. Annette, do you remember?
You came in December, yes.
December, yeah. I think it was before Christmas, I know that. But I don't come every day. I only come when there's something that I need to work on. So I come and go.
Okay. Now, are you doing other entities as well in the area, or just us for now?
Actually, I am still working with Buckeye Lake. I'm almost finished, I think. I've been there for almost a year helping them. But I did serve as their clerk before they found one. Two different clerks served as their clerk. We shifted on and off because we both couldn't be there full time. But she left a while back, but I stayed until we got the clerk in place. But Buckeye Lake's new clerk, she is almost ready to go. So she came from a background of no experience. So it took a lot longer to get her ready to go. My goal is when I leave, that I have been able to train or whatever it takes, or set up files, whatever it takes to get them ready to go, so that you don't need me ever again, or if you do, it's just a quick in and out. But I am not here to just chew on your financial budget. I can assure you that's not why I'm here. But I can help you get some things set up because you have a really new staff, so it takes a little bit, more for individuals who come into a brand new staff.
Okay. All right. So since you've been in, we should be pretty well straight now, correct?
All of your bank recs are done. Annette and I finalized out the December 2020. It's done. We're actually, I think she started the January one today. So you are current, and your budget is now current. We are ready for you guys to go through your process of passing your budget. I put you a debt schedule together that will help. The only thing that I think we were looking at is if you would allow me to take a look at some of the funds that you have that are stagnant and find out why they're stagnant now, why they're not being utilized. Is the grant over? Is it, you have 3 big ones that are just sitting there, and we just wanted to answer some questions, and I was going to help her, if that's, agreeable with the council, to find out why those things are a little stagnant.
Okay. And my final question, will it now be easier for me to receive, I had asked in the summer for like a detailed, I call it a list, detailing like what checks have been paid out where.
Yes, actually, there is a program.
Okay,
yeah, there's a program in the system.
Okay, so that'll be
called
easier.
Payment
Okay.
List. Mm-hmm. And I give that to my council every month. They get that from me as well. The things you should be receiving as a council are the appropriation status report, the revenue status report, fund status report, and a payment listing. Those are the reports that you should receive.
Okay, we used to get that every month.
Yeah, and I can help her get those back in order so that you're getting them again. You also should be signing off on bank recs. And the state just put in place something that is requiring a clerk to be in balance in 60 days, and if they're not, the state auditor notifies council that they haven't balanced yet. So that's something brand new that the state auditor is putting in place to make sure that people don't get behind on their bank recs.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you. That was all I had.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Linda. We'll go to Mike next. He's on Finance Committee Chairman. So, Mike, do you have any questions or anything you want to bring up at this point?
I have no questions, but I do agree that it's hard to ask for help, and I'm glad and that did. And I said in the Finance Committee meeting that being in the business that I'm in, I have a lot of people I deal with that have COVID funds, and that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work dealing with that. Unprecedented, probably the first time that's ever happened in the history of this country, I would imagine. But so glad to have Melanie's help.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Beth, do you have any questions or any input that you want to address with Melanie?
Well, I think first, Melanie, thank you for your help. If I'm remembering correctly, when we brought Annette on, there was no cross-training. The former finance director had left, so I appreciate and we do have a new staff, so it makes sense to me that we would want a certain amount of training to get everything the way, to get everybody up to speed, right? That makes sense to me. And it sounds like you've been helping with a comprehensive budget. If I'm understanding right, comprehensive budget, detailed debt schedule, COVID spending, and everything that you have done for us is going to save us money in the long run. That's what I heard you say. Is that accurate?
Correct. Everything that I do, I actually put those files together so they're auditable. So I try to prepare documents that the auditors can look at and go, oh, okay, second party did this. I can use it and go on, which will save you audit costs.
Okay. And then getting things right, like were things, did we need to fix things? I mean, I'm not sure that I'm understanding that.
Well, I think some people would say, no, you didn't really have to fix things. What we found, and Jeremy can tell you as well because he helped me with it, and Annette helped me with it. We talked to the mayor about it. We found that line items were just, everything was under a line item. So, and I expressed this a little while ago, like supplies and materials. If you look at the general fund, 790 fund, which is your general governmental supplies and materials, I guess what I would say to you is what wasn't in there. Everything was in there. I had contracts in there. Professional services were in there. Insurance was in there. Medical insurance was in there. All kinds of things were buried under supplies and materials. And it's been that way for a long time. It's not something that just happened. It's been that way for a very long time. When you do something like that, you don't really give a clear where these things are being spent for, what they really are being spent for. You just look at that and you go, wow, supplies and materials is massive. Who could spend that kind of money on supplies and materials? That's the first thing I thought when I looked at that line. I thought, wow. Then when I opened it up, I went, oh. Half of this needs to be out of there. I think it started at like almost $90,000, but when we pulled everything out of there that shouldn't have been in there in the first place, it was down to like 30. And it's like all that stuff really belongs in other places. And I think it's very clear when you look at your colored sheets, as I call them, all the back sheets, the appropriation back sheets. I tell you what goes under some of those line items, who the vendor is that belongs under those line items. And the reason I do that is because Dana posts from those sheets. She can go look at them at any time and go, well, where's that vendor supposed to come out of? And she can go find it and say, oh, yeah, this is where this belongs. Not where it was, but where it belongs, where it really belongs. But it gives you as council, it gives the managers, it gives the mayor, everybody more information and a real clearer picture of what you're really spending your money on and what type of things or areas you're spending your money on. That's what our goal was, is to break that thing out of there, get the lines where they belong, give you a better picture.
Okay, and then the other thing you said that every department head had input into their budgets and they're aware of what their budgets are?
Yes, we actually, Jeremy and I and Annette all met with the department heads. They came in and sat down with us. We gave them those colored sheets that you guys have access to. We looked at them. We said, okay, do you see any holes? Are we missing anything? Jeremy had a lot of notes that he had taken in prior meetings with the department heads, but when we got the sheets in front of them, it gave them an opportunity to say, oh, so this is what my payroll looks like last year. This is what we think it's going to look like this year. And how did you come up with those numbers? Because behind every appropriation sheet is also the individual employees and who comes out of there. Who comes out of which line items? Because you have some that are split all over the place. You've got some that are split 5 ways. You've got some that are split 3 ways. This gives you a picture of who's where. And another thing that I noticed you weren't budgeting that you really need to is your HRAs. Okay, or HSA. I'm not sure which one you guys have. HRA or SHA. Most people don't budget those, but they could spend every dime of that money. Every employee could spend every dime, so it needs to be laid out there just in case it happens. Doesn't have to happen, but it needs to be budgeted out there just in case it does happen. But we tied a lot more things together. We made sure that we knew who had insurance, what type of insurance, if they had a payout. We really got down and dirty into this budget and tried to make sure we didn't miss anything. Because the goal of this budget is to not have to come back to council at every meeting. That we only come back to you if there's something new that came up after the budget was prepared. That's really the only things you guys should have to see throughout the year, if we do our job right.
Okay, thank you, and again, thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Beth. Perry, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that the departments had input into their budgets for the year. That's a first in the city. I also wanted to ask you, I had pulled the 18, 19, and 2000 ledgers, and I've been looking for some things very specific, and I had noticed that on all the checks written, inputted, there was nothing in the memo. There was nothing saying what it was for or what it was related to. Is that also remedied?
Well, that is a practice that shouldn't be carried out, and I know Annette is not because I've seen some of her postings. You should never have a check out there that doesn't tell you exactly what it was for. Because what happens is, and I'm thinking you guys do this, you lift to Ohio checkbook. Because if you lift to Ohio checkbook is with the state treasurer, anyone can go on there and pull up anything they want from prior years. So once you're done with 2020, you push a button, and that button says, okay, it's headed to the Treasury of State's office, and they get that information. The more information you put in your work, the more information is available to someone outside of your entity. And that's what the high checkbook is supposed to be doing, getting the information out there available. And actually, if you've never tried it before, it's easier to search that than any other method that I know, even UAN. So if you're looking for specific things about St. Clairsville, you will find everything you want to know on the high checkbook.
Okay.
But yes, you detail is extremely important, extremely important. And even the way you write a receipt helps you get it back out of the system. And Annette and I have talked about that. A lot of times you'll put in, like, the county auditor. This came from the Belmont County auditor. That tells me nothing when I'm looking for something. So we'd be a little more specific at the end of there, the county auditor permissive tax or whatever it is that you got from, or a settlement or whatever it is, because it just makes it easier to get it back out and save time and energy. So there's a lot of little things that you can do to make your life a lot easier and make it easier on everybody else.
Yeah, so will this alleviate, like in the 2018, 19, and 20 years, being on council here, we had tons and tons of times where legislation would come as emergency for housekeeping. And I'd say we're at least 70% of the time that was pretty much it. Is that going to help alleviate that to where it's not?
It should alleviate it because, like I said, if we do our job right, you should only be coming back with new things that you know about prior to the budget information needing to be in the system. So if somebody has something that has to be done and you guys vote on saying, yes, they can do this, then at that point they're setting up line items to go with it. So it's not an emergency. It shouldn't have to be an emergency unless it is an emergency. It shouldn't have to be.
Sure.
Because most of your things are probably 3 readings.
Yeah, so I know a lot of the legislation that came our way this year had to be emergency. The vast majority of it was because it was COVID-related, and it was having to spend the money in a certain amount of time, and we had to have approval on it. So I think this year was a very different year.
COVID made our lives just awful because everything had to be an emergency because they kept telling us we had a deadline. Of course, they've moved it a year out now, but after we were all done. Everybody I know was done. It's like, well, what good did that do us? You know, you told us we had to be done. We are done. And actually, I don't know if Annette's seen hers yet, but all of my COVID money in my village has already been approved by the OMB. It's not only that I'm done, but I've already been through all the audits. I'm completely finished. They accepted every expenditure I made. So, you know, it just depends with them, but they were in a big hurry to even get the reviews done for some reason. But I also sent every single invoice up. When I sent my report up, I copied every invoice and sent it to them and said, here you go. And they immediately audited me out, and I'm done. So it just depends on what kind of documentation you give them, what you get back.
Terrific, Tercha. We're glad you're here. Thank you.
Yeah, but, you know, there's a lot of little things that I can help you guys with, and I accept phone calls. And Annette will tell you I take phone calls all the time, and I do not charge you when you call. If Annette calls to ask me a question. I have several people who call me when they have questions, and I'm retired, so, you know, I can do whatever I want on my time.
Great. Well, thank you. I have no more questions.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Terry, do you have anything you want to ask or discuss with Melanie?
No other questions, no. Just the same as in the finance meeting earlier. Melanie, thank you so much for your thorough and structured help. Very much appreciated and very necessary at this point in time, and just appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mark, do you have anything at this time that you want to bring up or ask Melanie?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, Frank, do you have any questions or anything you want to ask Melanie?
Yeah, just a couple questions, Melanie. You stated you've been with us since December, once or twice a week. How much longer will the city of St. Clairsville be requiring your services?
Well, we are finished with almost everything. The budget was the last piece. The only thing, if you're willing for me to help you with, is you've got 3 funds that I would like to work with to find out why they're stagnant and they're just sitting there. It looks like grant money has probably come in. One was a revolving loan. There was a couple other ones. There's 3 big ones right in a row, and they're dead. It's like nothing happened in 2020. And I would like to take a look at those to see if you can close those out and maybe move that money into something else. But we have to go back to the beginning, to when they started, to find out what they were for and what you can do with the money that's left over. But a lot of that happens, funds kind of get stagnant and they just die, and the money just sits there forever. But there are, you got at least 3 of them right here that look like they need some work. And I would be willing to help you with that if you want it. If not, that's fine too.
All right. And Melanie, along those same lines, one of those wouldn't be the water tank fund, to your knowledge.
No. The water tank fund is one of the utilities. Those are all fine. Those are not the problems. There are 3 right in the middle ones, revolving loans. I think you had something about decorations, I think, or renovations, and then another one was community housing, I believe. 2 of those look like to me they could be CDBG money, and it's possible that the revolving loan, I believe, had to keep revolving, and it's just kind of stagnant. So at some point, you should be able to close that thing out, but without looking at the documentation back from the beginning, and seeing if you can close it out, because sometimes those can get closed out, and sometimes they have to get pushed out. So, but they shouldn't sit stagnant.
All right, thank you on that. And Melanie, I have one more question here. I didn't receive ordinance, if you're familiar with tonight's ordinance 2021-2. It's about the appropriations.
Yes.
On Section 2, I never saw wording like that. Would that be your wording to draw warrants on the city, treasury, et cetera, et cetera? Okay.
I believe that's
your signature on that?
Yeah, that probably came straight out of the village handbook.
Okay. Yeah, because I've been on council.
It just looks word for word from the village handbook.
Okay, I've been on council for a number of years, and when I came across Section 2, I read it again, and I thought to myself, I've never seen wording like that ever, in any of under ordinances. And then, okay, if it came from you, that would be your signature. All right. Okay, that's all.
And I took it, and I can even send you parts of the handbook if you want. And Annette has one in there as well, and I think the mayor and Jeremy also have one. But that came right out of the back, word for word, right out of the back of the handbook.
Yeah. No, I won't need any copy of that.
Okay.
I want to thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Again, Melanie, I want to thank you. I don't know if council will have any questions pertaining to the budget once we get to the legislation. If you have time, if you'd like to just kind of sit there in case they need another question answered. If you're on a time frame crunch and you have to go, then I understand that too. But just in case, if you could just kind of sit tight for a little bit and see, maybe another question would pop up when we get to the legislation.
Yep, and I think Annette and Jeremy are ready for you. I believe they've studied it quite a bit, so I think they're probably going to be prepared to answer those questions. But if you need me, I will be here. But I also want to make sure that you understand how wonderful your staff is. I know they're new, I know they're learning, but the cooperation that I had with your staff is something I have not seen anywhere else. They were the easiest to work with, ready to learn, ready to accept change, and just work to make sure that everything was smooth and that everything transitioned the way it should have transitioned. So you are lucky to have a staff that nice and that cooperative with each other, as well as myself. It's a refreshing to see, because I don't see it very often.
Okay, thank you very much, and I very much appreciate if you could stay on the line. And thank you for all of the help that you have given the city and the staff that you worked with.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to the reports. We'll go to the mayor's report next. Catherine, do you have anything to report this evening?
Yes, I do. First of all, Jim, I had received a letter from a constituent, and I wanted to share that with council, from Carrie Grillin. And she says, Mayor Tolman, I don't want to waste time on a moot subject. However, I would like my wishes heard and my feelings known. I was not disturbed by the contents of the citizen's letter read by a member of council at the 2/1/21 meeting. As stated, everyone is entitled to their feelings and opinions. What I was disturbed by is that it was read by a member who now seems to be demonstrating an obvious personal dislike for you, and who clearly has some sort of personal vendetta and or political axe to grind. I'm perplexed by this transparent behavior, and quite frankly, I find it appallingly juvenile. This is precisely what fans blame, not the political commentary itself. I was quite disgusted by this bit of political theater, and I applaud the remaining members who objected and refused to discuss this matter. Thank you. You've proven to be a fearless and tireless fighter for our city, which is exactly what we need. You have my total and complete respect and trust, as does Tara Butler. I am so pleased to be represented by you in the 4th Ward. Thank you, Mayor and members of council, for your time. Carrie Berlinski. Thank you. And now I'll go into my mayor's report. Once again, our city has been very busy despite COVID, meeting with organizations either live time or on Zoom to move the interests of the city forward. I met with Chief Arbins to be updated concerning training and assets needed by the department. I'm happy to report that all officers have completed all online trainings and state requirements. I had a Zoom meeting with the Mayor's League. We are all still trying to navigate through the pandemic and discuss how COVID has affected our local businesses, as well as waiting to see what kind of funding will be coming from the state for our businesses and for our city. I met with Melanie, Annette, and Jeremy to discuss the multiple adjustments to the books to put everything in correct postings. Thank you, Annette, Melanie, and Dana, for your hard work to make this right. Jeremy, myself, and Councilman Perry Behl of Building and Grounds had a meeting with Hannah Carpenter and her staff from Belmont Soil and Water. We met for a couple of hours hammering out the details of a lease for the train station and the landscaping building on South Sugar Street. Great suggestions and ideas were put forth. Thank you, Perry, for taking time to be part of this. It shows real commitment to our city. This will be a win-win for our city. Renovations will make these buildings viable and more attractive, as well as provide a meeting venue for the city garden and the after-school gardening program, which will eventually meet there. It's a win for the city. Councilman Oprich came in to discuss police committee items. Her input with Chief Arbins will bring fruition to a juvenile program to educate and involve our city's leaders of tomorrow, our school students. Kudos to Chief Arbins and Councilwoman Oprich for your hard work. Met with Debbie and Sean at the rec department to discuss future activities and some things that can be done until we're out of quarantine mode. They will be working once again with the Soil and Water to provide educational information along the bike path. Our staff spent time meeting with the new Clerk of Courts, Jason Garzik, discussing what the office does and how it can serve us. Met with Councilman Mike Smith, who was in and went over the budget numbers and discussed the finances with Annette and Melody. Thank you to Councilwoman Tara Butler, not only for the time she spent meeting with Anita, myself, and Jeremy concerning utility protocols, but also for the hands-on taking care of a wicked pothole in her district. She called me, told me about an axle busting pothole in near the laundromat. I told her I'd meet her there at 7 p.m. to have a look at it. She showed up with several bags of cold patch, and she and I dumped them in the hole to make an appreciable difference in the pothole. Those bags are heavy, but teamwork accomplished the job. Thank you, Tara, for your hands-on effort to make the city a better place. Spent many hours in Jeremy's office discussing city insurance and making sure we're getting the best value. We also had a very productive meeting with Jeff Vaughn, Jeremy, Kelly Porter, and the county commissioners updating our information with connecting the city water to the county. This project is on time, perhaps even ahead of the timeline proposed, but our service director will be initiating the program to check for water leaks first so that we're not paying for water that's being lost. My thanks to Chief Urbans and Officer Greg Clerk for the initiation of the outreach program, which they instituted under the direction of my administration. It has been enthusiastically and positively embraced by our citizens, and Officer Clark goes out of his way to check on our elderly and let them know we look out for them. With approximately $150 worth of candy, which was donated, myself, my niece, and Officer Clark spent time last Friday reaching out to these citizens, wishing them happy Valentine's Day. This gesture meant so much to all we saw. We also stopped at city nursing homes to at least say hello from outside. I participated in a Zoom Omega meeting, heard a guest speaker with new funding initiatives to be rolled out. We will be discussing submitting projects for these funds. So that's pretty much it, Mr. Velas. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll start off with Terry. Do you have any questions on the mayor's report?
No questions. Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, Perry, do you have any questions on the mayor's report?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth, do you have any questions on the mayor's report?
Yeah, not a question, just again, a thank you for all the hard work, Catherine, and I just wanted to say that I've gotten a lot of positive feedback about the Valentine's celebration, remembering the elderly, getting out there. I was going to bring it up in the police report because it was in conjunction with the police officers, and, you know, I think Chief Arvin's department and Officer Clark's, you know, involvement helped make it a success, but you know, I'm sure that everybody saw that it was a front page article in the Times later, and it just, I've got a lot of compliments about that, and so I pass those compliments on to you, your niece, the officers, and everybody who made that a success for our elderly.
Thank you, Beth.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Mike, do you have any questions on the mayor's report?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Linda, do you have any questions on the mayor's report?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Frank, do you have any questions on the mayor's report?
Yes, I do. Want to ask the mayor where we're at on mayor's court?
Well, we're getting it set up to start last week of February on Wednesday.
All right, and who will be your assistant?
Jennifer McMillan.
All right, and if you would, the letter that you read from Mr. Berlinski, I believe, is that person, are they a St. Clairsville resident or non-St. Clairsville?
Absolutely. They are a St. Clairsville resident.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Mark, do you have any questions on the mayor's report?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the service director's report. Mr. Greenwood. Jeremy, do you have something you want to bring up this evening, obviously?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening, council. Wanted to start with, I know the last meeting there were several questions about the cold patch and Durapatcher, and I had sent out some emails to council and wanted to see if there was any questions on any of that or if anybody had any concerns. If so, they feel free to reach out to me, please, and I can address them. More ice and snow this past week. I know it's starting to sound like a broken record, but thanks again to the crews. I've had several people compliment us on the streets and how good of a condition they're in, especially, this morning after this ice storm. Had a couple complaints, but mostly compliments with that stuff. We're dealing with the complaints the best we can with stuff. Same thing to residents. Please remember to move your vehicles off the streets when it snows, and do not shovel the snow into the roadway or into the downtown, the businesses, into the parking spaces. Please leave it on the edge of the sidewalk. I know it's starting to get high. I know it's a lot, but we don't really have any other better places to put it yet. So hopefully the storm that's coming up this week won't be as bad as we're thinking, and we can kind of go from there. Meetings, as the mayor mentioned, we met with Jeff Vaughn, I met with Jeff on a couple things, but this one was the water distribution system upgrade. I mentioned that in the last meeting, that the Ohio EPA has a water supply revolving loan account, and they are pushing water distribution very much so. So there's the potential for loan forgiveness, or at least no to low interest loans for that. So we'll kind of look at what we can do with there and see where we can take it. Met with Terry Foster on insurance renewal meetings. Also met with Rob Beglin to discuss that also. Belmont County Soil and Water, we met with them to discuss the lease for the landscaping and building and grounds building and the pre-engineered metal building. I think the mayor had mentioned the train station, but the train station is not part of that lease agreement with them. One of the things that they will be able to do, though, is utilize that space, because we're actually looking at renovations for that. And that was my next meeting. I met with Dave Mertz with Belmont College to talk about the train station renovations. There's the potential that we could actually get the slate roof on the building redone. So we're going to work with him and get some things figured out and kind of go from there. Utility clerk. We've hired a part-time utility clerk. She has an accounting background. She started last week and is currently training, and I'd like to welcome Barb to the city. Also met with a private developer and Tom to look at some property for a potential development on the edge of town. But at this point, it's very preliminary, so once we have more information or something more concrete, I'll update council a little bit more. As we talked, budget meetings with the department heads, we reviewed proposed budgets, reviewed wish list items and potential projects and some of the things that are coming up. The budget information is, I think, very well put together, and I think it's going to be useful for a lot of stuff and looking at stuff. I was being told that this is really one of the first times this has really been done, meeting with the department heads to go over budgets and potential projects. So hopefully this works out well, and we can kind of go from there. We have a special utility meeting to discuss various policies that are coming up and policies that are questioned. Met with the law director on some various projects and things that are coming up. Also met with a citizen who was wanting to do a memorial at the bike trail. So me and Darren with the street department are working with her on that. Met with the water connection. Met with the county commissioners, Kelly Porter and Brian Street, from street engineering. Kelly's from the Belmont County Sanitary Sewer District. We kind of got an East End connection update with them, and Jeff Vaughn was there also. They updated us on their water projects and schedules. They noted that schedule-wise, we could be connected to their system as soon as November or December of this year. But as the mayor noted, I'm looking at pushing that more into February or March of next year. This will allow us to hopefully find and correct some more leaks so that we're not wasting water once we're paying for it. Some upcoming projects still, the running the buildings, the Belmont County Soil and Water, getting the fire department their building, the city restrooms, the city building restrooms and all of that, getting the touchless fixtures, which have not been delivered yet. They're still on back order. there's a kind of a bottleneck with some of the materials and things that have been ordered just because of COVID and everything that was going on. As part of the budget, we've got the rec center restroom renovations in there, so we're going to start moving forward on that to utilize that grant that was obtained by them. Mayor's Court, we're moving forward on that. We've got information on the software that we need to purchase to get that going through. Some upcoming legislation are going to be to hire a superintendent. We're looking at what we can do with that. We're still updating the administrative policies and procedures. The East End connection, that's still moving through. The water distribution system, I mentioned that. We've also got some dam repairs that'll be coming up. This is based off the monthly inspection reports and the 5-year ODOT reports that have been done. Or I'm sorry, not ODOT, but ODNR, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Completed projects, some of the stuff that's going on. The electric department's doing service work and trimming trees. Water and wastewater, we've had a couple more water breaks. Knock on wood, we've been pretty good with some of that. Street department, it's the same thing, ice and snow and equipment repairs. We've had some wear and tear on the equipment. I mean, we've pretty much scheduled most of the guys. We've had a swing shift, for lack of a better term, where we have a couple guys come in early in the evening and then a couple more early in the morning and then a couple that are on normal shifts so that we can, keep on top of the streets. We've used approximately 300 tons of salt so far. We've got about 150-ton reserve. So knock on wood, hopefully not too much happens in the next couple of months. I'm hoping the groundhog is not right and we start to have some spring weather here. Good to the city. Currently there's no one out sick. The additional rapid tests have been delivered and there was actually testing today. The city was also awarded the Tree City USA designation for 2020. This was I do believe, the 21st year in a row that the city has obtained that. So that's great news, especially with everything that went on last year and the amount of craziness. The iPads are ready to go for whoever wants them with council. Jen is kind of taking care of that for me with the paperwork to sign and go over everything and then to get your email set up on the iPad. So anybody that wants one can stop in and let us know and we'll go from there. I know there were a couple council members that expressed concern that they don't necessarily want one, so that's fine, but they'll be here. I'm still working on the Employee of the Month thing. I have a couple narrowed down candidates. I'm working on nomination forms to get to the superintendents and supervisors. And we got a couple pieces of legislation that are coming before council. 2021-2 is basically the budget. 2021-3 is the transfers from funds. And then 2021-4 is the JB Green team they are updating their solid waste management plan. Basically, there was a summary sheet that was sent out to everybody. They've discontinued a couple of programs, and they're adding a recycle right outreach campaign to combat contamination at drop-off sites. That's basically, from my understanding, when people are dropping things off at the recycling sites that aren't recyclable, they have to deal with those issues. They're kind of changing some of their rates and stuff too. They had in there where in 2016 the rates and charges were like $9.52, and then in 18 it was reduced to $4.52, and they're further reducing the rates to $2 per improved parcel for 2021. So if anybody has any specific questions on that, we can look it up and go through it. I have an actual copy of the manual, everything. We basically sent out the summaries to everyone. But if anyone wants a copy of that, just like the full copy of the budget, just let us know and we can have a copy and get it in your mailbox. And that's really about it.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Start off, Mark, do you have any questions on the Service Director's report?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Terry, do you have any questions on the Service Director's report?
No questions. Thank you, Jeremy.
Barry, do you have any questions on the Service Director's report?
No questions. Thank you.
Beth, do you have any questions on the Service Director's report?
Yes, I just have a couple questions, Jeremy. First, is there potential to get more salt if the groundhog was right?
Yes, we can always order more. The thing about it is we just got to watch because we were able to get it under the state purchasing and get it at about $77 a ton. Right now, the current rate, I think Dawn told me, was $150 plus or minus. So we just got to kind of keep an eye on that. There might be some little back and forth we might be able to do with some local entities and some of the other people that have this material. So knock on wood, hopefully that we have, better weather coming up and we don't have to deal with that.
Okay, thanks. And then my next question is on the information that Roberta sent us, and thank you, Roberta, for sending us the information from the JB Green team. But in looking through that, I saw that in the past, like somebody from the commissioners or somebody from the JB Green team actually addressed council. Is there a plan for somebody to come and address council, or just the correspondence that we got is enough to kind of summarize what the plan is?
I think it's just the correspondence that we got. I have not heard anything from anyone else. There was a email, I do believe, reached out from Ed Good. He's with the township, and it was just kind of a reminder that we needed to have this addressed for the Solid Waste Authority plan.
And then do we have an idea of the other places that have passed this thus far?
I do not. I can reach out and ask, though. There was a whole list of stuff. It looks like most of it is the townships and some of the other stuff, but I see several people on here on this email correspondence that I know personally. So I can reach out and see who and what has happened.
Yeah, I think, in reading one of your correspondence this week, you had said that this is, although the emergency language is in, we don't have to do it in an emergency tonight. So if you could get that information as to what other places have signed on, then I'd appreciate that.
I can do that.
And then just finally, I just want to thank you for your responsiveness. Anytime that I've called you directly, I've had a couple residents that have called me, and I've always felt free to pick up the phone and to call you. You've always been very responsive. You've always been very professional. You've always been, giving me the information that I need. And I just appreciate that you're an asset to the city, Jeremy. I appreciate the hard work. There's never been a doubt in my mind, and you have demonstrated it, that this is a full-time commitment for you, and your work isn't going unnoticed, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Beth.
That's it.
Jim, before you go, I did have one other thing I forgot to mention. With the insurance meetings, with us actually, for lack of a better term, shopping insurance, we're going to save about $12,000 from last year's coverage. And it's basically the same coverage or better in a couple parts. Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier.
Okay, I think everybody will be happy when we can save some money, so I don't think there'll be any questions on that. Okay, Mike, do you have any questions for Jeremy on his report?
I have no questions, thanks.
Okay, Linda, do you have any questions for Jeremy on his report?
Yes, I have two questions. First, what is the new utility clerk's name?
It's Barb.
What was it? I'm sorry.
Barb, B-A-R-B. or Barbara. Barb, though.
Oh, okay. So, do we not? We're not allowed to give the last name.
I haven't breached that yet, so I haven't gone through. But she was one of the candidates, and if council so wishes, I can email her resume to those people. Anybody that wants it.
Okay, that'd be great. And then my next question is regarding mayor's court. Is there a reason you can't use the software that's already there?
It basically needs updated in the way that they have it set up. To my knowledge, it didn't do everything that it could do. So with the newer software, we're going to be able to say if somebody comes in and they're fined in mayor's court and they decide that they're not going to pay, then we can submit that to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General can go and then do a lien or do whatever they do to go after those funds.
Okay. Now, is this an additional cost?
I think it's an upgrade. Yeah, I think it's about $11,000 is what it is set up. I don't know what the other cost of the previous software was, but it needs updated. So this was one of the suggestions that we went through and looked after talking to several other, I don't want to say clerks, but other municipalities that are doing mayor's court. I do believe we talked to Shadyside and a couple others.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Frank, do you have any questions on the service director's report, Frank?
Yes, I do. For Mr. Greenwood, is there any plans for citywide paving, budget permitting, for this year?
We've got about $150,000 budgeted in the street department for paving. I know that's not going to go very far, but that's about where we're at now. I've got some other potential projects that we'd like to look at, but if they don't move forward, then there's some potential for more paving in there. The other thing that I want to actually do with this, I'm getting quotes for the crack fill and then also sealing, so that we can seal some of the streets that are newer streets that are maybe not in pristine shape, but if we would be able to seal them and take care of them, that we're going to be able to stretch them out and last longer.
All right, my second and last question, talk about J.B. Green down at the recycling center, the lot. I had a gentleman call me and said, and I go down there once or twice a week, except for the past week when it's been icy, but it is quite icy down there, and that was his point. Is there anything we can do, Darren could do from time to time? It's like a skating rink down there.
Yep. Yeah, we can definitely look and see what we can get into there. One of the other things that we're looking at with the potential equipment is getting a V-box salt spreader. That's one of the potentials we're looking at, so that we can actually get down in some of the streets and alleys. And then the other thing that we're actually looking at is doing a brine system to be able to get to the ice, because once we get down to the temperatures we're at now, the salt doesn't work very well. So if we can look at maybe pre-treating some of the streets and areas, so that's something that we can look at. But I will talk to the street department tomorrow and make sure we can try and do something down there. We're still playing catch up with the alleys and stuff.
Yeah, it's used quite often, quite a bit. That's all I have.
I use it all the time too.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Okay, we'll move on to the police chief report. Chief Broadbent, do you have anything this evening to report?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start out by saying we really appreciate the street department's hard work, the long nights, early mornings, keeping that ice and snow down to a minimum. I think out of all that, we had one extremely minor vehicle that slid and kind of knocked into the side of the road, and that's it. And that's remarkable. So thank you, gentlemen, for that hard work. Our department received the Gold Standard Award for 2020 from our provider of our policy procedures, state and federal update and daily trainings for our participation rates on that. Very proud of all the guys that kept up to date, did all the daily training bulletins, and received that Gold Standard Award. As the mayor mentioned, I'd like to recognize again Officer Clerk for his efforts in reaching out to the seniors on Valentine's Day and spreading a little bit of joy and putting smiles on their faces. And lastly, we have gotten a couple of complaints. I know Jeremy came to me about a month ago about trucks using their engine brakes and Jake brakes in town. We've got another complaint on that. Before we went out and started enforcing it, I did a little research on our current ordinance that we have on that, and I found the language on it a little bit lacking. So I've emailed Elizabeth my proposals to upgrade or update, rather, the ordinance 337.20 to add clarified language on engine brakes, aka Jake brakes, specifically in town before we go making our mark on the truckers. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Before we start in here, I just want to make a couple of comments too. The last couple of days with the snow and especially the ice last night, I saw the cruisers around town all over the place. I unfortunately had to be out a little bit last night, and them along with the street department, they were all up and down the streets last night, and especially with that ice. So not only the police, the street department, they're doing a great job in this weather especially. Okay, we'll move on to questions. Frank, do you have any questions for the chief?
Yeah, hey, Matt. Frank.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I just want to mention to you, this is off the cuff. Last Thursday, I was driving through town. I was there by the convenience, and I'm going my 25 mile an hour, and lo and behold, a car passed me. I was going eastbound. Never have I experienced anything like that, and I thought, boy, what a time for one of our guys not to be sitting on Parcel or up by the old animal hospital. But
yeah,
I know you can't.
It's funny you say that. Yeah, the exact same thing happened, Mr. Sabatino, about 3 weeks prior, and thankfully on that day, Lieutenant Trollis was just over the rise and saw it take place and got the gentleman stopped. He didn't get him stopped till outside of town. He was going so fast. But yeah, if you see something like that, try to get a plate or a description for us.
Well, I was probably more shocked. All right, thanks.
Yeah, I can understand.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Mark, do you have any questions for the chief?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Terry, do you have any questions for the chief?
No, thank you. Matt, thanks for everything you guys do, as always.
Yes, ma'am.
Terry, do you have any questions for the chief?
Yeah, Matt, you're doing a great job. And I'll tell you what, just the Gold Standard Award, that's excellent. And then also with the training that you've implemented this year, terrific. Just thank you again.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Beth, do you have any questions for the chief?
I'll have more to add under the council committee meetings when we talk about the police committee meeting, but just,
okay.
Thanks, Matt, and appreciate working with you.
Yes, ma'am. Same here.
Mike, do you have any questions for the chief?
I have no questions. Thanks, Matt.
Yes, sir.
And Linda, do you have any questions, Linda, for the chief?
No.
Okay, thank you. I will move on to the finance director's report. Annette, do you have anything that you want to address, whether it's just pertaining to Melanie's report or anything else?
I just want to thank Melanie for all her help and all the cooperation from Jeremy and the mayor and all the departments and getting the budget together. I just got 2020 actually physically closed out today, so I will be getting reports out to everyone for the year end. We had a really good financial year, and I think that's all.
Okay. Mark, do you have anything that you want to ask Annette? I know you're also on the Finance Committee, but do you have anything that you want to bring up at this time?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, do you have anything for Annette?
No, thank you.
Perry, do you have anything for Annette on finance?
No, but I'm glad to see the direction that the city's going. Good job.
Thank you.
Beth, do you have anything? I'm sorry. Beth, do you have any questions for Annette?
I just want to say that, Melanie's report was, glowing from the perspective of the cooperation that she got from our city, and particularly from you. So thank you for working so closely with her to better our financial system. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. It's been a whirlwind of a year, but things are going to get easier and better.
Okay, thank you. Mike, do you have anything that you want to ask Annette?
No, I have no questions. I'll have a report coming up here.
And Linda, do you have anything that you want to address with Annette?
No.
Okay, thank you. Frank, do you have anything that you want to address with the finance director?
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to planning and zoning. Mr. Murphy, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, and thank you, Jim. And Council, at the last meeting, I think some had trouble hearing for me, or there was some scratchiness, so please let me know if that's happening again. But at the previous meeting, I mentioned that me and Jeremy, we were working on improving the proposed parking for the convenient food mart project on East Main Street. I met with the owners and their architect 2 weeks ago and proposed our changes to the parking plan. Our goal was to help improve the internal traffic pattern within the site. I think all of us know that when you pull into that parking lot now, it's kind of a free-for-all. The owner did take the city's advice and is changing the plans accordingly. They had set up a perpendicular parking pattern, which there just was not enough space for that. And Jeremy and I worked on angled parking with a one-way in and a one-way out that will garner enough parking spaces for them and just make it a better situation for everybody when they go in there. There is a business incubator in the classroom area of the First Presbyterian Church. Last week I met with 2 different business owners that were establishing a small space in the structure. Both were pop-up clothing boutiques. The hope is that they become more and more successful, and that helps them establish a larger storefront within the city. So this kind of is a starting point for them, and with a hope for bigger and better things. Another item, our monthly GIS meeting. Mapping meeting will be tomorrow morning. Cohen Associates is currently assisting in the updating of our mapping, especially in the eastern part of the city, specifically the Spring Park area. And I wanted to close out on some information that I learned about the census. You may have read some information in the newspapers or online recently that the census figures for redistricting have been delayed till September 30th of 2021. I was kind of curious to see how this would affect the release of our population data. So I called my contact at the Census Bureau, Rose Simmons. She said that release date for the population will be affected. What will happen now is that the Census Bureau will deliver population counts used for apportionment to the President by April 30th of 2021. Originally, that was supposed to be done on December 31st, 2020. So by September 30th, the Census Bureau will send redistricting counts to the states. This information is used to redraw the legislative districts. What this means for St. Clairsville is that sometime between April 30th and September 30th, we will find out our population. I did talk to another resource I had, and the way there's kind of a hierarchy of how they release the information. The federal information first, then the state, then the county, then the municipalities. So they're on the lookout to, if they find any information out about St. Clair. So during that time period before I do, they'll let me know. What's caused a lot of this is what we all know. The pandemic has just put everything into slow motion. Issues with the election, that put things into slow motion also. But the unfortunate part is that we will have to wait. But eventually we'll find out. So that's the update on the census information. And that's it, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, Terry, do you have any questions that you want to address with Tom? No? Very good. Thank you. Okay, Terry, do you have any questions that you want to address with Tom?
No questions. Thank you.
Mark, do you have any questions you want to address with Tom?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Frank, do you have any questions to address for Tom?
I have none.
Linda, do you have any questions you want to address with Tom?
No.
Mike, do you have any questions you want to address with Tom?
Yeah, just one question. Tom, what's your gut feeling? Is that redistricting going to be a positive or negative for the city?
You mean as far as the population figure for the city, Mike?
Yes.
I mean, my gut feeling is I always try to think on the positive side, and that will result in a positive number, plus above